Thousands take to the streets of Buenos Aires as U.S. President Barack Obama visits the country. Plus, people also take to the streets to Brazil to defend democracy. Thanks so much for joining us. For teleSur's English, I'm Coddy Weddle, and this is From the South. Social movements, activists, workers' unions, and different organizations filled up Buenos Aires' Plaza de Mayo. Hundreds of thousands marched yesterday against Obama's visit on the 40th anniversary of the start of the brutal U.S.-backed dictatorship that left 30,000 disappeared. Banners demanding justice and rejecting President Mauricio Macri's government were also prominent among the protesters. Although the U.S. president left Buenos Aires for the resort town of Bariloche, protests were also held there to reject his presence. The small town, which is known for its resorts and touristic attractions, was shaken by chants and banners which featured U.S. flags and symbols of U.S. imperialism. Meanwhile, in neighboring Brazil, thousands marched in support of democracy. The demonstrators backed Dilma Rousseff's government and rejected impeachment attempts by the opposition parties. Now, the marches come as former President Lula da Silva warned that the efforts to link the government to the Petrobras corruption scandal are damaging the economy. And the Brazilian government unveiled a new mobile application to help tourists detect and treat symptoms related to the Zika virus. The app was created ahead of the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, where it is believed that 52,000 people from around the world will attend the World Games. Authorities in Mexico discovered a tunnel crossing into the U.S. border at a local restaurant in Baja California. The tunnel was used by drug traffickers to transport drugs into the U.S. Now, according to investigations, the traffickers had bought the plot of land and invested thousands of dollars to build the restaurant, which would serve as a cover for their operations. Bolivian President Evo Morales has accused Chile of using the Celala waters illegally. Now, the river located at the border between both countries has opened a new dispute between both nations, which Bolivia says it will take to the International Court of Justice in The Hague. The legal office of the Bolivian government is planning to add the claim over the Celala waters to the already opened case over Bolivia's access to the sea. Elections are set to take place in Peru next month. However, with two leading candidates disqualified, the favorite in the polls is Keiko Fujimori. The National Electoral Board, which was investigating Fujimori for vote buying, has ruled to allow her campaign to continue, which has sparked protests there in the capital. For more now, we turn to Raul Mora in Lima. Raul, what can you tell us about the Electoral Council? How did they justify this decision that the frontrunner there, Fujimori, will not be disqualified?
Hi. Yes, the 5-page resolution issued by the Special Elections Board states that disqualification is too great of a sanction that, quote, can disturb the normal electoral process, end of quote. However, the board did not make the same argument when disqualifying the other two candidates. The board also claims that the nature of the event organized by Factor K, where the cash was handed out, was cultural and not part of the campaign. However, there is plenty of evidence to the contrary, including pictures and videos of the event full of campaign paraphernalia. There is also a video where Fujimori herself claims, quote, "We have been able through Factor K to integrate youth into politics, and that participation of the youth will be the engine of my party and of my next election," end of quote.
Okay, Rael, it appears that she continues to lead in the polls there, and I understand that the first two candidates, if she doesn't reach 50% of the vote, will go to a runoff. Tell us about, are there any polls showing who might come in second there?
It's being disputed, and there's three candidates closely connected that are getting close to it. But although one of the national newspapers has brought the issue to light about the disqualifications, citizens are mobilizing through social media and protesting in the streets in higher and higher numbers. Many are calling the process fraud. Also, polls are showing an increasing number of citizens that claim they will not vote for Fujimori under any circumstances. That number is right now 47%.
All right, Raul, we know that you will continue to keep an eye on it for us. Thanks so much for reporting there from Peru.
Thank you.
And St. Lucia now. We turn to St. Lucia because they've launched an ambitious 10-year National Forest Protection Plan. Our correspondent in St. Lucia now, Allison Kentish, explains that the government is hoping to repair serious environmental damage over the next decade.
The cutting down of trees for decades has taken a serious toll on St. Lucia's rivers, and as authorities continue to grapple with urgent responses to drought, they are warning against further deforestation. On March 22nd, the government of St. Lucia unveiled a 10-year forest protection plan to coincide with the observance of World Forest Day activities.
We have another set of challenge. We have climate change, and that's a major challenge. We have to conserve biodiversity. Of course, we have to protect the environmental services and conserve it because it is strongly linked to sustainable development, as PS mentioned. And that is why we developed the 10-year National Forest Strategy.
St. Lucia's Sustainable Development Minister says the world must wake up to the fact that forests play a vital role in poverty eradication, environmental sustainability, and food security.
Question of protecting water supplies, and it is so correct for this activity to fall the day after World Forest Day and on World Water Day, because without the forest in St. Lucia there can be no water, but without the water there will be no forest either. And climate change is really impacting on both in different ways.
In 2010, St. Lucia's Forest Reserve was severely damaged by Hurricane Tomas. In fact, more than 500 acres of forest reserve were lost to landslides. Fast forward to 2016, and despite some restoration work, it is clear that St. Lucia can ill afford further land degradation. Officials hope the 10-year strategic plan is the answer to the island's environmental problems. Allison Kentish, teleSur's, St. Lucia.
To the United States, where the presidential race there continues this weekend. The states of Hawaii, Alaska, and Washington will be caucusing in the Democratic side. 142 delegates will be chosen. Opinion polls predict a large victory for Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who recently appeared tied with Clinton in a national poll.
Exciting.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is visiting Russia to meet with his counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Both diplomats discussed at length the conflicts in Syria and Ukraine. In both nations, a fragile ceasefire has been implemented thanks to the efforts of the United States and Russia. Kerry revealed President Obama had spoken with Russian President Vladimir Putin over the phone to discuss the progress in the implementation of the Minsk agreements. And we stay with the United States now to talk more about this weekend's primaries. On the Democratic side, Bianca Perez joins us from the Capitol there, Washington, D.C. So what are the chances for Bernie Sanders, Bianca? Hawaii, Alaska, and what was the other one there? How is he polling in those states?
Yeah, hi, how are you, Cody? So tomorrow is looking favorable for Senator Sanders as Hawaii, Alaska, and Washington State go out to vote. And the reason being that they hold caucuses, which is a system that is usually favorable to the senator. It brings out a larger voter turnout. And it seems to be younger crowds that are willing to go out and vote during the caucuses. So it thus far has favored him. So it will probably favor him as well tomorrow. And the difference between him and Hillary Clinton right now is only 303 delegates. So it could very well be that he gets a large portion of delegates, depending, of course, on the percentage vote that he gets in each state. And he will continue to add, regardless of whether he wins or loses, to his delegate count. So he can begin to very well close the gap. Also, Senator Sanders is waiting on other states that are upcoming, like New York and California, where he hopes that he will do very well as well. And he will get a large number of delegates. So he's very hopeful, the campaign is very hopeful that they will be able to begin to close that 300 delegate count gap fairly soon. So we will see how it will turn out for him tomorrow.
All right, we will see. Obviously, the biggest prize there will be Washington State, but also Alaska and Hawaii will be caucusing, not voting. Thanks so much, Bianca.
Thank you very much, Cody.
And U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is visiting Russia to meet with his counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Both diplomats discussed at length the conflicts in Syria and Ukraine. In both nations, a fragile ceasefire has been implemented thanks to the efforts of the United States and Russia. Kerry revealed President Obama had spoken with Russian President Vladimir Putin over the phone to discuss the progress in the implementation of the Minsk agreements. The Syrian government has released new footage showing its advances on the town of Palmyra, which has been under control of the so-called Islamic State group for almost a year now. The terrorist group has destroyed World Heritage sites in the town and has made it one of its strongholds. Former Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic was found guilty of committing genocide by a United Nations tribunal. Now, he was blamed for the Srebrenica massacre of 1995 during the civil war in former Yugoslavia, where it is estimated that 8,000 Bosnian Muslims were killed. Now, he was responsible for authorizing the order to take the city, which then ended in carnage. In a rare televised trial, a U.S.-Korean citizen has admitted at a North Korean court that he stole state secrets. Kim Dong-chul, who has previously said he was a naturalized American citizen and was arrested in North Korea in October last year. Now, the 60-year-old man would have been a spy for the South Korean government. Kim was living in the Ranson Special Economic Zone, where he ran a personal business since 2008. Clashes erupted in Paris at several police stations after the police were accused of striking a 15-year-old student the day before protests against a controversial labor reform. Since early in March, students have joined workers' unions in protesting and rejecting the reform. Concern is growing in Turkey as two journalists are being tried behind closed doors. The two men from the opposition daily Cumhuriyet were charged with espionage and revealing state secrets after they posted a video showing Turkish military vehicles loaded with weapons crossing the border with Syria. The closed-door trial has raised protests and statements from leading human rights organizations. The legendary Rolling Stones have set foot in Cuba for the first time ever. The rock band will perform in Havana for free just days after President Barack Obama made a historic visit there to the island. The Rolling Stones leader Mick Jagger met with Cuban musicians that will be opening for their band. The concert will take place tonight and will be free of charge. Meanwhile, in Oruro, Bolivia, artists have transformed a sand park into a gigantic tapestry with inspired sculptures. Now, the sculptures are part of the Easter celebrations being held throughout Bolivia. Through their work of art, the artists want to raise awareness of the importance of the conservation of the sand park. And thanks so much for joining us. That's what we're covering here on this Friday at teleSur's English. Be sure to stick with us on social media before we see you again here on Monday. Have a great weekend.